We're Zach and Ashlyn.
And we are building our dream off-grid home on our new 50-acre property right here in Kentucky.
So far, we cut in the road, built the pole barn,
poured the foundation, framed the house,
and now we are sheathing the exterior.
Let's get to work.
We are back to work on our off-grid house here. We have framed up the exterior of this house with the trusses on top there. If you didn't catch that video, go back, watch it. That was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. And now it's time for us to start sheeting. We're gonna start on the roof and then we'll end up on the walls. Before we started sheeting this thing, we did go ahead and straighten everything out. We wanted to make sure these walls were plumb. We wanted to make sure the trusses were level and that everything was lined up exactly where it needs to be, because when we start putting sheets on this thing, it's not moving. We're up here on the trusses. Behind me, I have our zip system sheeting. And what this is 1/2-inch OSB with a membrane on the front, which gets taped at the seams. And this basically creates our weather barrier. Traditionally, we put on like a Tyvek or a house wrapper or something like that, but that stuff isn't too great. And we're trying to build a really tight house. No air in, no air out, except when we open the windows and through our ventilation system. So this stuff is gonna help us accomplish that. It's not very cheap, so we gotta be careful with it. We gotta make sure we don't penetrate our nails. We want our nails to sit right on the top of that. Let's get this sheet into place. We gotta make sure that first one, the first one for everything's gotta be perfect, because if the first one's not perfect, the rest of them won't be either. First nail going in. Whew. Well, we've got our first sheet on. Took me a second to get used to using that nail gun. It's really important that we don't just punch right through it. On the joint one, it's not a big deal because everything's getting taped, but everything on the surface in the middle of this board is probably not getting taped, but obviously will get taped if we blow through the membrane like I have a couple times. Forgot my hat at home. It's really hot up here. We are on to our last row of zip sheeting. Whew, it's getting hot up here. It's been a little cloudy today, but you can see I gotta wear the hat today, and I actually have it. So let's get back to it. Let's get this last row done, and let's finish off the sheathing on this roof. One very last sheet to go on this roof, sitting over there on the forklift. Let's get it moved into place and let's get this sheeting done on this roof. Now that we've got our zip sheeting down, we actually need to tape these seams. All these seams horizontally and vertically need to get taped with a like 3.5 inch tape. It's very, very sticky, and then we need to roll it. But first, I need to sweep this roof off so that way we don't have any gunk below the tape. Now that we've got all of our roof sheeting in and we've got everything swept off and there's no dirt in the cracks, we are now going to tape up the seams. We got to tape them this way and this way. And to do that, we've got a zip system tape. We're going to put this on there and we're going to use a roller to roll it in, and that kind of activates the glue and whatnot that's behind this. This stuff is great. It's really sticky. It's kind of stretchy. So this is a big step for us because once we get this tape on here, the roof is for the most part waterproof. We can be underneath it and it can rain and it won't leak down, or it shouldn't leak down at least, unless we did something wrong, of course. First, I'm going to do these long horizontal runs, and then we'll do the small 4-foot runs going vertically. Now we've got a couple runs of tape all lined up, and I just kind of pressed it down every 4 or 8 feet about. But now we've got to use this roller, and this is the roller specifically for zip system sheeting. It's got little indents on the roller there with a Z in it, so you know that you actually pressed it down. It's pretty obvious if you didn't actually roll the tape because it doesn't actually stick all that well until you roll it down. Let's go ahead and roll these 2 lines up. Once you roll this tape on there with that roller, it is pretty dang hard to get off. You're almost stretching it and ruining it to get it off of there. It creates a really nice tight seal. We're gonna be using this flashing tape and the zip system on the entire house. We'll basically be creating an airtight bubble around this house, and that way we don't have any airflow out or in cold weather or hot weather. We can control the temperature in the house a little bit better, and it'll also keep any drafts from coming in. Now we've got to get the rest of this roof done. Let's get to it. Now that we've got our roof sheathing on, it's time for us to start our wall sheathing. And we're gonna get started on this tall wall with all of our windows in it and all of our openings. I think this is gonna be the hardest one, so I wanna start here for the day. I've gone ahead and marked out where I want the top of this sheet to sit. We're setting these sheets horizontally. And because I'm only one person, I've got a little block here, which I can set this corner of the sheet on, and then I can hold that end, tack it in, and then nail in the rest. Let me see it. I wonder what kind of bird it is. Huh.
It's got a really short tail.
It does.
And it's got really long legs.
I wonder what kind of, whoa.
Look how long those are.
I think it's about 92 degrees today, full day in the sun. Whew, I can't drink enough water. We got our zip system sheeting up. This is the 716, this is the green stuff. Obviously it goes on the walls, and we got our openings all cut out. It's nice to see that. I like starting on these hard walls because when I'm exhausted after doing the hardest part, it's all easy from there, and tomorrow will be easier than it was today. This was a lot of work getting this. We had 4 sheets going up and then a slight little sliver at the very top. I had to get some help on that top one because there was no way, even with this scaffolding, that I was gonna get that up there by myself or at least do it safely. So got all our windows cut out. Those are looking really, really good. And we've got this beautiful view to look at once we get the windows in and everything, but whew, it's hot out here. Now that we've got our wall sheeting up, we have a couple openings we need to cut out. And to do that, we're gonna use our Bosch router with a flush trim bit, which basically plunges in there and I can cut that window out nice and easy. got our front wall sheeting up, we've got our back wall sheeting up, and now we've got to start installing sheeting on the sides. This is the last part of the sheeting, is this side and the side way down at the other side. And something I haven't really covered this whole time while I've been doing this sheeting is we actually are putting in blocking. So we have blocking between the sheets, so every 4 feet roughly. This basically is just what you need when you have a shear wall, any wall that's taking any wind or could potentially move. It's really important that you put blocking between, because otherwise you would only be able to nail your sheets every 16 inches on center with the studs. But in this case, we can go between those and we can do them more like every 6 to 8 inches, and it creates a much stronger wall. So we've done that on the front already, and we've done it on the back, and we've done it on this side, and we'll need to do it on the other side. But let's go ahead and sheet up this wall right here. We got all of our zip system sheeting up there. We got to cut a door opening. We need to cut a window right there. And then we got to tape this up all before we've got a storm coming here in about an hour or two. And I'm hoping I get everything sealed up. We don't want it to rain on this too much because it can warp the boards, and the edges, they can kind of expand with the moisture, and we want to avoid that as much as possible. So we're going to hurry up and get this thing cut out and taped. Well, we have finished our zip system sheathing, the green stuff on the walls and the orange stuff on the roof. It's crazy to be looking at this structure with the sheathing on. Once you get to this step, once you get the framing, once you get the sheathing on, you can really start to tell that this thing is a house, and it really starts to take shape. If you've ever been around construction or you've ever watched a house being built, this house probably looks a little funky to you. I know it's a bit different than what, you know, here in America we're used to seeing. Typically you're used to seeing a, a triangle shaped roof, 2 pitches at like a 412. You're used to seeing a bunch of overhangs, and you're just not seeing that here. I know it's a bit different than what is traditional, but this has been in the making for a long time, and every single aspect of this build has a purpose. On this build, we traded luxury for efficiency and simplicity. We wanted an efficient home, and we wanted a simple home. We didn't want all these extravagant corners and nooks and crannies in the roof, and we wanted it to be really simple and straightforward. And doing so made it to where I could do this by myself. If you've watched all the videos in this build or anything on the property here, you can tell that I've done basically 95% of the work myself, and there's always a way to do it yourself, but it has to be simple. If you do complex projects, they require a lot of manpower, they require a lot of knowledge, which is something I don't have. I've never built a home before. The closest thing I've ever done to building a home is building a chicken coop or a shed, and that is completely different than building a full-size house. And that's why we chose to do a simple build, because 1, we wanted to do it ourselves. 2, we wanted to do simple. We like simplicity. We don't like complex things in our lives. We like it to be straightforward. We like it to do what it's supposed to do. We like the roof to protect us. We like the walls to keep the roof standing. And we've done some things that you could consider luxurious, right? Like we've done 6-foot by 6-foot windows, big open facing, southern facing window system here. But it wasn't because we wanted big windows. We put big windows in because we wanted the solar gain from the sun. We wanted to heat this home with a match, and we wanted to have it be very efficient, and we want it to be passive. And that's the key thing in this house, is that the majority of this home is gonna be passive. We're gonna be self-reliant, we're gonna be self-sufficient, we're gonna have solar power, we're gonna have a cistern, we're gonna be heating this home with a masonry heater, we're gonna be heating this home with these windows, with the sun, the thing that shines every single day in the air, and that's a really important thing to us. You know, honestly, here in America, we don't build homes very efficient. We build very inefficient homes, unfortunately, and the craftsmanship is just not there. Although this may not be a craftsman home and a luxurious home, it is built very well structurally, and as far as the efficiency standpoint on it, it is going to be probably one of the most efficient homes in this area, because I don't know anybody else that's building something like this, unfortunately. And I don't really know why that is. You know, to me, I would rather have a simple home that costs me basically $0 a year to heat and to run the electricity and to get water. And of course, there's all these upfront costs, but when you take into account the amount of years that you're gonna have these things like our cistern, our solar system, you know, the insulation that we're gonna be putting on this home, the triple pane windows, those things pay off pretty darn quickly, especially with the price of electricity, the price of water, and really just the price to rebuild and do a new home. So if you're gonna build a home, you might as well make it efficient. You might as well make it last for 100 years, because it is just worthwhile. And that's what we're doing here. As this home sits right now, it looks a little strange. We have a single slope pitch here. You know, typically you would have another pitch that comes off this way, but we only have one, and it is a 212 pitch, which means it's gonna be very easy to work on, very easy to install the roofing. Not only is doing a single slope roof cost effective, but this actually has a purpose, and it all has to do with these big, huge windows we've got on the front. If we had another pitch coming down, we wouldn't be able to put in a really tall ceiling, we wouldn't be able to put in very tall window systems, or we would have to make the whole building really tall, which adds a lot of cost. And so the better thing to do for us and our decision making when building this house was to do a single slope pitch, and then have one end be extremely tall. On the inside, that is gonna be 166 inches, which is roughly like 13 foot 8 inches, I believe. And the back is 8 feet. And so essentially we have a huge window system that is gonna heat this home, and we're gonna have a big great room with the rooms off of that. But this roof system is very simple and very effective. You'll see a lot of passive houses, which is what we're trying to build. It may not be the best passive house, but it is going to be close to passive house standards. And this single slope pitch has a lot to do with that, and has a lot to do with our window system. The other thing you'll see is we don't have overhangs. Right now, we've just got walls that go up that connect to the roof that connects to the back wall, and no overhangs at all. And that is actually on purpose. This zip system sheathing is a WRB layer. It is a water resistant barrier and it is an air barrier. This is why we tape all of these seams on the zip system sheathing. So essentially we are creating a plastic bag around this house. And when you do an overhang, if we had overhangs on our trusses, it would make it very, very hard to seal up this home. And so what we've done is we put zip system around the entire exterior of this home. And then we will come through later and we will nail on or screw on our overhangs to the top of this roof. So that way we have a very continuous air barrier and weather barrier, and our overhangs aren't getting in the way like a normal traditional home would. Well, I wanted to give you guys a little explanation on why we built like this, because if you've been watching the video, you might be sitting back and thinking, these people are crazy. This is the craziest looking house I've ever seen. But there is a reason for everything. We took our time to make sure that this is exactly what we wanted. If you've never looked into what a passive house is or an efficient home, you probably haven't looked into or seen any of these systems. And as this build goes on, it'll start to take a lot more shape and you'll start to see the things that we were envisioning from the beginning. But next up on this house build, we need to install some windows, which is going to require a lot of work, actually, a lot more work than a traditional home, because we have a lot of insulation. We are putting 3.75 inches of exterior polyiso insulation on this home, which again is going to make it very, very efficient. But that means we got to do a lot of work for these windows because we're pulling the windows out up to that insulation. But that's not for this episode. That's for next episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.